And these things shift in the wind. Another thing that shifts in the wind are poll positions in politics. We got a very, very tight race going on in Iowa. And we got all these candidates vying for not only voters' attention, but the money guys' attention. And every one of them were tripping over themselves, at least on the Republican side, for billionaire Frank Vandersoot's attention. Of course, he was a former Romney National Finance Co-Chair. But he has huge influence in financial circles, to put it mildly, and huge influence when it comes to coronating potential winners. And right now he has coronated, or seems to have, one Marco Rubio. Frank, good to have you.
Thank you for having me, Neil.
Why Rubio?
Well, when we first set out 10 months ago on this endeavor to vet all the candidates, we thought we ought to ask ourselves these two questions. Number one, who would be the best president? And number two, who would be likely to be able to win a national election? In the beginning, we worried about maybe getting two different answers. One might be the best president, one might be most electable. But in the end, it turned out to be, in our mind, far and above one person, Marco Rubio.
Not Donald Trump.
Not Donald Trump.
Why not?
Why not Donald Trump? Oh, I think many reasons. Number one, I don't think Donald Trump would make a very good president, number one. I also don't think he's electable. I think he would lose the election. But Donald Trump has never, he's got a track record. Look at his track record. He's never looked out for other people other than himself, in my opinion.
He's tapped a rage, though, right?
Well, I love the fact that he speaks out and he's not politically correct. That resonates with me also.
Right.
I like the fact that he says things as he sees them. We need a president that will do that. But in the end, I believe that we'll see that he's pretty shallow in international affairs, and we'll see how that plays out.
Your guy is young. He's inexperienced in international affairs.
Well, he serves on the International Affairs Committee.
Right.
He's got a lot of depth, I believe. As we see him articulate his position, I think that it'll become clear that he is the best informed and the most articulate. And I think that that bodes well for someone who not only is going to lead the country, but is seeking the nomination of either the Republican Party or the election itself. I think that he'll shine above all the others as those debates play out.
Interesting. Suzanne and Ralph, we're going to extend this a little bit here. This is obviously very interesting. Frank, let me ask you about some of the others you passed on. Jeb Bush comes to mind. He was the runaway front runner before Donald Trump emerged. Why not? Yeah.
Well, many of my friends threw in right from the beginning behind Jeb Bush.
Right.
We didn't. He's a great man. I think he would be a good president, but we need a great president. And I think a great president.
What affects your decision? You're obviously a shrewd investor. You know what you're doing with your money. What is it that made him look like a bad bet?
The ability to articulate your position in a way that will resonate with the average person, that they will get behind you and support the decision that you made. And
well, how do you know he couldn't? He did it for 8 years as Florida governor.
Well, we've seen him in the debates.
The debates were crucial, weren't they?
The debates were pretty crucial. But in the beginning, I thought he would do better in the debates than he actually did. But I thought that, from the beginning, I thought that there were several who would outperform him in being able to articulate a message, and that proved to be true.
Let me ask you a little bit about the Ted Cruz phenomenon, because he has had the best percentage gain since the last Fox Business debate. What do you think of him, and what do you think of that surge and the passion behind it? Controversial, polarizing, but strong.
Well, he's right on all the positions, or at least most of them. I believe I can support him on his positions, but when you look at him versus Marco Rubio, the difference is how they articulate their positions, and in a way, I think we need a president that's going to unite this nation and get people who disagree with you also on board, not just galvanize one versus another. And I think that's where Marco Rubio really excels. He can.
They said that about Barack Obama 8 years ago. They said that about George Bush 8 years prior, that they look like they could be unifiers and get the two sides. It never happens.
Well, it didn't happen in the case of Barack Obama, but I believe it will happen in the case of Marco Rubio.
Why?
Well, he hasn't attacked individuals ever in his career. He attacks issues, and he articulates the issue, and he takes a stand that not only he's studied out, but that he can explain in a way that people can arrive at the same conclusion that he arrived at. And I think that that's part of leadership, being able to articulate your position in a way that other people get on board. And that doesn't, whether it's Congress, other members of Congress, or the people at large.
So you think he's electable and go all the way, that if you got the nomination, he could go all the way? You're a little more concerned about that if it were Ted Cruz, a lot more concerned if it were Donald Trump.
I'd be concerned about either Ted Cruz or Donald Trump in regards to being electable.
Do you ever worry that this drags on too long, though, that we get to Cleveland without one man or woman having the delegates necessary to get the nomination?
I think that's a real possibility. Not very many people are talking about that. I think that is a possibility. But we've got the system that we've got, and I think it will play out in a way that will allow Marco Rubio to show that he has the best grasp on the issues, both domestic and internationally.
So you're committed, but I always, those other rich individuals, Sheldon Adelson comes to mind, the Koch brothers come to mind, they're holding pat. What do you make of that? So many with so much money holding pat.
You know, I've talked to many of these people, and some are going to hold out until the first 3 or 4 primaries. I think that's particularly dangerous to do. I think we could easily end up to have a Republican nominee that's not electable. And we've experienced that, and you know, we've got a whole
do you fear
number of
that
elections.
Donald Trump, if he's not treated right and he's mad at the establishment, bolts as a third-party candidate, that would torpedo the Republican ticket?
It would torpedo, and I don't know. I hope that he has better character than that, but I think that's a viable question.
He says the establishment is piling on him. Is that true?
I don't know. I think that there are people who disagree. I think that I'm certainly not part of the establishment, but I think that people disagree with his approach, and I don't think he is at all prepared to be president of the United States. And I think that will become more and more evident as they talk about what's going on an international basis. I think he's got a good grasp of domestic, especially economic issues.
So you think this terror issue has pivoted Marco Rubio to the forefront?
I think it will. I don't think it has yet, but I think it will.
We're told that Mitt Romney, and you were his financial co-chair, actually likes Rubio the best of the bunch. Is that true?
I don't know. I know that he likes him a lot.
I think you know.
I don't. He hasn't represented to me that he liked anyone particularly the best, but I know that he likes Marco Rubio a lot.
All right. Very good seeing you, Frank. Frank Vander, so talk about influence and power. That is so, and he commits his money behind this candidate, Marco Rubio. That could be a big game changer. We'll be following it very, very closely.